Hi everyone and welcome to another Ask Me Anything session. So today's focus is going to be, we're going to talk about the last 70 days and we received a few questions from the Google form that we had shared. But I'm going to of course take more queries from the YouTube chat. So if you have any questions that you want to ask about your prep plan for the next 70 days and so on, please let me know through the YouTube chat section. I'll be of course monitoring that as we progress. I hope all of you are able to hear me clearly and you are also able to see my screen, etc. So just checking if everything is in place and we'll get started. Okay. Alright, so a couple of things. So what I've done is I have added a few slides so that we have some structure to talk about, and of course I'll be taking any questions that you put in the chat window. So firstly, what I'm going to focus on, right, is somebody has written, hope I don't watch, is it possible to crack it in 30 days? No, don't worry, you will not have that video because it will not be possible to let's say start from scratch and crack something in 30 days, right? But of course if you have a background, right, technically somebody can always get to a reasonable level whether you spend 30 days, 50 days or 70 days, right? So it's not that everybody will be able to get to a 99 percentile. Obviously that is not possible mathematically. But if somebody puts in effort, they can prepare themselves to get to that particular position, right? So it doesn't matter where you start, you still have 70 days ahead of you, and if you use it constructively, you will be able to have a positive outcome at the end of it. That is the belief that I work with. Alright, so first thing is that we're going to talk about, right, is this cycle called PDCA, right? It's something that is used extensively in operations. It's called plan, do, check, act. So there are 4 components, and the first component obviously is plan, right? So what I've written is resources and effort estimate. So what I'm trying to say here is, firstly, what you will have to do, right, is to make a broad plan for yourself as to what I'm going to do over the next 70 days. And somebody who is currently at, let's say, a 50 percentile versus somebody at, say, 80 percentile versus somebody who is getting, let's say, 95 or 98 in the SIMCATs, their planning is going to look different, right? So everybody is different and the needs are going to be different, the aspirations are different, what you can potentially achieve in the next 70 days, that is going to be different. So you have to figure out, okay, what is it that I am going to be doing over the next 70 days before I can say that I have done reasonably well, right? So see, at the end of this whole thing, you should be happy with the prep that you have done. The outcome it can always be better, obviously, unless you get like 100 percentile. Things can always be better. But then at the end of the whole exercise, I should feel that I did whatever I could have done, right? So resources and effort estimate. So if I decide to do, let's say, everything from scratch from now, will it be possible to do? Not really, because there is going to be, of course, a limit to what you can do, let's say, in a day. So maybe, let's say, I would put that as upper limit of about 8 hours, right? So let's say you're somebody who is just doing CAT prep, 8 hours you sleep and the rest of the time you have available. With that, maybe maximum of 7 to 8 hours is what somebody can study, right? Beyond that, it becomes a little bit too much. Though there have been cases that we have seen of students doing 10 hours, 12 hours, etc. Generally, 8 hours is what I would suggest for somebody to keep as an upper limit. Not everybody is going to need that much time. So somebody can, of course, live with about 2, 3, 4 hours of preparation as well. So I will figure out what is it that I'm going to do. So should I be doing class exercises, practice exercises, benchmarking tests, SIMCATs, proctor, take home, pass CAT papers, and so on and so forth. You have a lot of things to do. So you will have to prioritize and say that, okay, this is what I am going to do before I can say, okay, I've done enough. Okay. For example, right, just to give an example, somebody might say that I have done class exercises, I have done practice exercises, I'm not going to take benchmarking test, I'm just going to jump to sectional test and I'm going to take SIMCATs, right? So it's up to you as to what is it that you want to do. So figure out how much time will that take. So if I decide to do, let's say, all 20 SIMCATs, that is going to consume 20 days of my entire preparation. Correct. Now on those days you may be able to do additional, let's say 20-30 questions of different sections, but if I'm going to do 20 SIMCATs, I would say 20 days are assigned to that. So that is the effort estimate that I'm talking about. So you figure out how much time things are going to take. So don't take too much also, because it may not be possible to do everything. And this is sort of a message to students who think that collecting more material is a good thing to do, right? So if you collect a lot of material, you basically have a lot of material. So if you buy, let's say, books from outside, right, but you don't solve them, so what's the point of buying those books? So you do things that matter and things that will make difference to your preparation, rather than just trying to accumulate more and more content. The second thing is do, right, which is basically doing. So somebody can make great plans, but if you don't do it, then what's the point? So self-discipline and SIMCAT analysis. So every test that I take, whether it is a full length test in the form of SIMCAT or a section test or a module test or a past CAT paper, I will have to do thorough analysis of the performance that I had, just to understand, okay, whether things are progressing in the right direction or not. The self-discipline part, right, that if I say that I'm going to study for 3 hours today, am I really doing it or not? So see here, basically you are reporting to yourself, right? There's nobody who is, I'm assuming mostly there's nobody who is on a daily basis asking you how much CAT preparation have you done. So all of you need to have that bit of self-discipline and say that, okay, today I'm going to do so much, so I will do that. If I'm going to sit for a SIMCAT this Sunday, I will sit for it, no matter what happens. So I may have to, let's say, sleep maybe 1 hour less for that, but definitely I will do it. So figure out how can you stay disciplined, right? Now, if you think you yourself, you're not self-disciplined, then you can have an external person, right? So you can say, okay, maybe it's your sibling or your parent, right? So you do reporting to them. So you tell them that, okay, today I'm going to do this much, and just tell them that, hey, why don't you check up with me, let's say after a couple of hours, whether I've done it or not. So that you have that external accountability in place, right? Sometimes announcing your goals, right, works positively. So if you tell a lot of people that, hey, this is what I'm going to do, it creates a sense of accountability, and generally you end up doing things, right? So figure it out whether you're self-disciplined or not, and then work on it. Check is timely revision and mentor insights. So after periodic, after every, let's say, 7 days or 10 days, right, you will have to see whether things are going in the right direction or not. The workload, is it too much? Is it too less for me? Can I do more, right? So maybe some of you can, let's say, do 60-70 questions a day. But currently you're doing only 30-40. So you'll have to ask whether, is my workload enough or not? So can I take up more questions? Second is mentor insights. So you have to talk to your mentors and figure out what is the next thing that you can do, right? So the way we are having an interaction right now, I would suggest that you talk to your mentors at the center or online, wherever you are enrolled, and go through your SIMCAT analysis, right? The past couple of SIMCATs that you have taken, ask your queries that, okay, this is the problem area, now what should I do? So if you say, okay, fine, let's say my DILR, I'm not able to improve. So your mentor will tell you that, okay, why don't you do the questions that you have got incorrect in the last, let's say, 5 or 6 SIMCATs, and then also do past CAT questions, and then let's see what happens in the next mock, right? So getting insights from mentors is also going to be very useful. Revision is going to be again very important. So after every 7 to 10 days, you go through the things that you have done in those 7-10 days. I'll talk more about revision as we progress, because that becomes very crucial as we go along. And finally, ACT, right, which is applying learnings and self-motivation. So whatever you do, and because of that you get to learn a few things, if you're not applying them, then it becomes a problem. So let's say today I realized that maybe I sat on a particular DILR set for, let's say, 10 minutes. Now the next time also I'm repeating the same mistakes, it's not helping me. So whatever learnings that you get from your SIMCATs, you will have to remember them and implement them as you progress, right? So if you decide that, okay, I'm not going to, or I'm going to do thorough ABC analysis in quant section before I solve. So if you don't do that next time, or next time you end up solving the same kind of questions that you have been doing and you end up getting it wrong, then you need to really think whether you are approaching this in the right way. So figure out how you are going to do revision as well. Okay, so put it in your plan that, okay, every 7 days this time is dedicated for revision. So the way all of us make calendars in some or the other way, you make a calendar for revision as well. Okay. All right, now what I've done is I have written a few things which are, say, must do. So everybody should ideally do it. And then if you have more time, then what can be done? Okay. So let's talk about, I put it at a sectional level. So let's talk about VRC. Okay, now what would be like a bare minimum? And see, I'm not adding the questions that you solve as part of your full length test. So full length test, let's say a SimCAT or a past paper that you're solving, that's separate. In addition to that, if you are whatever you are supposed to do is written here. So VRC, I would say that you should be doing at least 2 RCs a day, right? And again, when you do it, try and do it as if you are taking it in a test condition. So a lot of students have this thing that I am able to solve outside the test condition, but I can't solve it during the test. But if you solve each and every question with the same sense of urgency, so you try and replicate test as much as possible. So if you can put a timer, right? So sometimes you may have RC in your courseware. Now you don't have a timer because you have a physical book with you. What can you do? You can use your phone, right? So or you can use your watch. So you can actually time yourself and see how much time you are taking. So do that. So 2 RCs a day would be minimum. That would be either say 8 to 10 questions that you have. 10 verbal questions. So roughly about 20 questions of VRC is what you're doing every single day. Okay. And of course, whatever mocks you take, right, that is additional. Now, once you take your mocks, you have to analyze them thoroughly and see where you're going wrong. So typically in VRC, what helps is reading the solution very carefully to see what sort of an error you did. So if it is, let's say, some sort of inference error that you did, right? So the author was trying to say something, but you interpreted that in some other way. So you need to understand why a particular option is incorrect. So if you read the explanation carefully, you'll be able to understand that. So read the explanations very, very carefully. Now, if you have more time, what I would definitely recommend is that you do generic reading. And what I mean by generic reading is reading for fun, right? Reading not because you're preparing for CAT, but just because you want to read. So it can be anything. It can be, let's say, whatever, Eon, Guardian, New York Times, any Indian newspaper is also fine. So anything which is primarily non-fiction is what I would recommend, because that's what CAT asks you. But even if you want to read fiction, that's completely okay. So just read for fun for about 30-40 minutes a day if it is possible. If not, just focus on solving VRC. Okay. Now let's talk about DILR. Okay. Now I can see a lot of queries in the chat, but we'll get there. Let me talk about DILR first. So for DILR, again, bare minimum becomes 2 to 3 sets a day, right? Anything less than that is not going to give you enough exposure. And see, you must have solved a lot of sets by now. So those of you have been preparing for, let's say, last 3 months, 6 months, whatever, you have solved enough sets, but you need to still solve more, right? So maybe your exposure could be, so I was talking to one of the students at the Last Mile to CAT event in Mumbai, and I asked him, okay, can you tell me how many sets you may have solved so far? And he said roughly around 200. So 200 sets is not enough generally, right? So you technically need more than that. Somewhere around 400 sets is a sweet spot. So if you have done about 400 sets in total, I think that's a good number. So from now, if you do, let's say, 2 to 3 sets a day, you can go anywhere between 140 to 200 odd sets. In addition to that, whatever past CAT papers and SimCATs that you solve, that will give you additional sets. But again, while you are solving this, right, try and do it under 60 minutes. So if you're doing, let's say, 3 sets, I would say under 60 minutes. If you're doing 2 sets, under 40 minutes. Because another common mistake that students do is while they're solving at home, they don't put a timer. So they just sit on question for a long time, sometimes 30 minutes, 40 minutes, they are spending on one set. But that's not the thing to do, because you have limited time available. So you can't be just spending a lot of time now. It would have been fine, let's say 6 months back. But right now, you don't have so much, you don't have the luxury of time. Then set selection. So whatever parameters that we use for set selections, and all IMS students are aware of that. If you haven't seen the first Mile to CAT video, which is there in your dashboard, I suggest that you check it out, because in that video, you will see all of these approaches of question selection for VRC, DILR and QA. Now, if you have more time, you can always do more puzzles. So whether it is puzzles in the form of Sudoku, Kakuro, Kenken, any sort of numerical logical puzzles, if you can do that, 30 minutes if you can spend on it, that will be great. But nothing beats this, right? So if you, so given a choice between doing this and let's say one additional set, I will always choose one additional set, right? Because ultimately that is what I'm prepping for. This is what is called peripheral preparation. It helps you, for example, if let's say you are into a particular sport, right? Then you also do resistance training, and that is what this is. So it helps you to get better at this, but nothing beats this. So do extra sets if you can, if you don't want to do this, right? That's completely fine. And finally, when it comes to QA, right? Again, a lot of students take too much time. They sit on questions for a long time. 25 questions per day should be the bare minimum that you do, which is equivalent to about one class exercise if you look at the IMS material. So that is the bare minimum. How much time to spend? Up to 90 minutes. So it may happen that it's an easy set of questions. You're able to do it in, let's say, 1 hour. That's okay. You can do more questions. But 90 minutes is what I will roughly put it at. 25 questions, 90 minutes, about 3 minutes per question. Now priority should be arithmetic, algebra, geometry, okay, because see, the way we recommend, right, is out of the 5 areas that are there in quant, if you are good at minimum 3 areas, you will be able to survive, and one of those 3 areas should be arithmetic, because that is the dominant part. If you have seen the past videos that I have made, or on the platform as well, you must have seen other content. Clearly, if you look at the distribution of questions, you will see arithmetic is the dominant thing. So arithmetic I will definitely should have as one of those areas. And then maintaining your own formula and concept book, okay, that is going to be again very, very critical, because you can't go back to your material and do the whole thing again. So the IMS students, you have your courseware. Clearly you will not have enough time in the 70 days to go back, open a particular chapter, go through theory, solve examples, and go through all the class exercise questions. So whatever you are doing from now, if you think something is very, very important, you save it somewhere, right? You note it down. It could be a formula or a concept book that you create, wherein everything that is special goes, right? So if I encounter a new formula, it goes there. If I encounter a new shortcut, it goes there. An interesting set with some sort of some quick description that you can write about it goes there. So anything that you want to note, you should write it down, okay? Alright, moving on to the last bit that I want to share is, see, if you look at the entire material that is available to you, right, just by doing courseware, okay, you reach a certain level that your exposure is enough to get to a certain percentile. So if you have done, say, courseware, proctored SimCATs and passed CAT papers. So a lot of students here would be asking, because we got such questions in the Google form as well, that what's the bare minimum that I should be doing to get to sectionals. I would say if you have done courseware properly, and see, when I say properly, so again, let me clarify here. If I pick a question from the courseware right now, and it could be, you could be a non-IMS student, let's say you have your own institute material. When you say I am done with it, if I ask you any question from it, are you able to answer? If you are able to answer and explain it to me, then you know it. Otherwise, you haven't done the content. So a lot of IMS students say that I have done module 1. But when you say you have done module 1, if I pick a quant question from it, or if I just point towards a DILR set, will you be able to solve it or not? If you haven't done that, then you haven't done the courseware. Okay, so don't lie to yourself. So if you have done courseware, proctored SimCATs and passed CAT papers, even this much if you have done, that's a decent enough exposure to get to the sectional cutoffs, which is roughly, say, 85, but overall you would hit 90% also, even after doing this much. Okay. Now, what if I want to do more, right? I want to get to a higher score. So I would say master classes is definitely something that you can look at, because they are at a slightly higher difficulty. So you should do master classes only if your basics are sorted, otherwise there's no point doing it. And then additional, of course, you have 20 take-home SimCATs, which will give you more practice. So what we observed is people who ultimately end up doing well, they take more SimCATs, and I had made a video on this, which is a detailed video on why you should be taking SimCATs, and I tried to make that point, that the more SimCATs you take, you're increasing your chance of getting into a higher percentile zone. Okay, so do as much as you can, but at the same time draw that line and say, okay, this is what I need to do, right? Because sometimes students keep solving questions without purpose, and you have to find what that why you're doing something. See, just solving questions, a lot of students do that, but it will not all of them will get the same kind of result. Why? Because everybody takes out different things from that experience. So somebody will say, okay, fine, this is the way to solve a question. Somebody else will say, oh, this is the way to solve the question, but there is, of course, a faster way. I could have used options, right? I could have used some sort of reduction in the problem, that okay, the problem is talking about, let's say, numbers that are in thousands. I could have scaled it down and then solved the question. Or in some cases, I could have just taken a value as 100 and then solved a particular question. So somebody who is thinking critically about a problem will derive more. So and the same thing applies to DILR or VRC as well. When you solve a DILR set, ask yourself, can I explain it to somebody? And if you can, you have understood it. VRC, again, figure out what sort of mistakes you are making and work on that. So when I take a test today, I don't do well on VRC. What is my path to get better till the time I take the next SimCat? So I'll say, okay, fine, I'm going to do 50 parajumble questions, right? And have that discipline that we discussed in the beginning to actually do those 50 questions before you take the next SimCat, okay? All right, next is conditioning your mind and body. So over the next 70 days is going to be very critical to condition your body, because a lot of students towards the end, the way they do for college exams, they think that they'll be able to push it, right? That you cram things towards the end. But with CAT, generally that does not work, because CAT is an aptitude test. It's not a test of the knowledge that you can sort of cram in, let's say 1 to 2 weeks, right? So that's why it cannot be built overnight. So you have to work on it from now on. So a lot of students say that I can't sit for 2 hours. It's not that you can't sit for 2 hours. It's just that you haven't conditioned your body to accept that as the normal, right? So your body thinks that it's not normal to sit at one place for 2 hours. So start doing extended amount of study. So in some days, for example, why don't you just sit for 4 hours continuously? Of course, take whatever small break in between for 5 minutes or so, but do a 4-hour study session wherein you do say 1.5 hours of quant, then maybe an hour of DILR, then reading, and then some VA questions, etc. Do extended sessions so that you condition your body, right? And mind will get conditioned if you keep doing that same thing again and again. So it will accept that, okay, this is normal for me. So solving questions, right? A lot of students have anxiety. The moment the timer starts, they get anxious that, okay, so much time is remaining, so much time is remaining. But then the point is, if you take more tests, you accept that, okay, this is how things are going to be, and then you don't feel anxious about it. You feel that, okay, this is fine, this is just a test and I'm supposed to focus on the question in front of me, decide whether I'm going to solve it or not, and then move to the next question, okay? All right, the next is going to be noting down. This I've spoken about briefly, so I'm not going to spend too much time, but you will not have enough time to revise. So from now on, whatever formulas that you have, they go in a separate book that you maintain for yourself. And I have repeated this hundreds of times in my sessions, that you have to create your own formula book. It is the best thing that you can do for your quant. Okay. Then last two things, these are more of sort of motivation, which is something that we had mentioned on the creative as well. See, you have to believe that you can do something great in the next 70 days. Because if you don't believe, right, there's nothing going to happen, because you don't have sort of some external person believing in you, right? And that thing may not even help. So you have to believe if you can do it or not. So very recently I was reading this article where there's this word called introvert. I hope I pronounced it correctly. So there's introvert, there's extrovert, but there are introverts, right? Which is basically, so you should read it, you should check it out as to what introverts are. So these are people who become part of social gatherings, but they are sort of individual thinkers, right? So they are not belonging to that group think sort of a concept. They like to have their own thoughts and so on. So because introverts, there's a definition, right, that they derive energy by being alone, or the extroverts derive energy from being with a lot of people. Introverts are slightly different, right, because they're not introverts, they're not extroverts, right? But there is nobody who is going to help you, right? So that is the premise that you work with, and that should fill you with some sort of optimism that I have to take control of the next 70 days. I believe in my ability to do it, and you keep on doing it. Of course, you will have benefit of, let's say, if you joined IMS, for example, or any other coaching, you have mentors who are supporting you and so on. But then ultimately, you are the one who is going to do things, right? No matter what course you have joined, if you don't do it, it's not going to help. And give it everything, right? See, it's just a matter of 70 days. I don't think it's very, very difficult to give up on a lot of other exciting things in life for 70 days, right? It's definitely possible. So figure out what are these things, eliminate them, and give everything that you can for CAT over the next 70 days, and something positive will work out. So see, the point was not to say that it's everybody will get 99 percentile in 70 days, right? That's not going to happen. That's the reality. But can somebody who is watching this, can you decide that, okay, I'm going to put an effort which will put me in a position where I can get a 99 percentile, or what is it that a 99 percentiler student is doing? If I do the same amount of effort, can I get there, right? Because see, not everybody will get there. That's very, very obvious. If you think of running, for example, right? So you can't start running today and let's say become Usain Bolt, right? That's not going to happen. Or you suddenly won't be able to have a capacity to run a marathon in 2 hours, right? That's not going to happen. But with whatever level that you are at, if you put sustained efforts over a period of time, will you get better? The answer is yes. So can somebody reach from say a 50 percentile to 80 percentile in 70 days? Answer is yes. Can somebody go from 80 to 95? Yes. Can somebody go from a 95 to 99? Yes. So no matter where you sit, can you get to a higher level in 70 days? The answer is yes, provided you know what you are supposed to do in these 70 days and you do it. Otherwise, there's no point. Okay. So that's what my focus was going to be in this particular session. I'll take questions that we have got. So we still have about 30-35 minutes before we end the session. Question on how to revise quant. Okay, so quant revision, as I said, the formula book is the go-to place. So you make your own formula book in which you write things down, and then every alternate day or once every 3 days you refer to this particular book. Rashmeet, my mock scores are declining, especially in VRC scoring. Sometimes I'm getting single digit. Okay, so Rashmeet, I recommend having at least like a baseline performance, right? That even on a bad day, I should not be falling below this level. For example, you should not be getting a single digit score in any of the sections for any of the tests, right? No matter how difficult they are. Because when you say single digit score, it means that you're not getting even 3 questions correct in 40 minutes, right? So that should not happen, no matter what's the difficulty. So what I would recommend is, in such cases where the paper is very difficult, right, you focus on accuracy and do fewer questions, but do them very, very well. So if you think of CAT 23, for example, very difficult quant section, but people who did, let's say, even 5 questions or 6 questions, they ended up getting good scores. So figure out what is like the overall difficulty. So that is what you need to estimate while you're solving, and never fall below a particular level. So if it is one-off instance, I'm okay with. But if it is happening multiple times, you need to see where exactly the problem is. Is it your RC is the problem, or let's say VA is the problem, and then work on those areas specifically. Okay. I've hit 86 percentile in my mocks yesterday. I wish to hit at least 199 percentile in mock with a month to go. Is that achievable? Okay, so Hari, even if you don't get a 99 percentile in any of the mocks, it is possible to get a 99 percentile eventually, right? So don't think that the SimCAT percentile that you get, right, is because, see, firstly, it's a limited pool of candidates. The actual CAT has a lot of dead weight, so your percentile definitely goes up. That is why we give something called a predicted CAT percentile. So if you have a look at that, with your 86 percentile on the SimCAT, I'm guessing the predicted it must have shown somewhere around 96, 97 percentile. If I start my preparation from today, will I be able to get a decent percentile? Yes, the answer is yes to that, but see, the definition of decent percentile varies, and what you bring to the table is what I don't know, right? So see, think of it this way, that one person who has never done competitive test in his or her life starts preparing from today will have to put in significantly more amount of time, money, or time and energy in CAT preparation compared to somebody who has, let's say, done a lot of competitive tests in his or her life and is starting CAT prep today. So that is why what you have already done in life, so sometimes I joke, right, that technically you have been preparing for CAT all your life. So whether you like it or not, right? So even in school, when you did say logical puzzles, right, or scholarship test and whatever, NTS and things like that, you are essentially preparing for CAT. So what you have done in the past also has a lot of impact, but definitely you can get better score from wherever you are currently. What topics from module 3 and module 4 should be focusing on is what Siddharth is asking. See, with 70 days, you can technically do everything, right? Because you have enough time to go through the basics of all the topics. In the last month, however, you can always decide that, okay, these are maybe the topics where I'm not going to do too much now. I just know the easy level questions. So if something comes from this area, If it is easy, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'll not get into it. Okay. Rochelle, I'm really struggling with QA even after solving class and practice exercises. I'm unable to translate that in mocks. Okay. So, Rochelle, there are some videos that we have in MyMS called Remedial, right? So, I would say that just have a look at that. There are a couple of videos in that which you will find useful. Is basically putting say things into equations, right? If you don't have so much time to go through it, I would just say that whenever you are solving next time, once you read a question, read one line and try and put something on the paper, right? So if you have read something, okay, some starting point, if you're writing things down, you will see that, okay, you're progressing. So take it step by step, right? It may not happen that you have read the question and now you're completely understood what you're supposed to do. So you may have to do things brick by brick. So start putting things down and see if it helps you. But if you try and revise or learn as if you're going to explain it to somebody, you tend to retain it better. 7 to 8 hours for a dropper, maybe. I think, see, if you have time, you can spend more time also if you want. Okay. Should be taking SIMCATs every day, do you recommend? No, I don't recommend that. 2 SIMCATs a day or alternate days, how to strategize to attempt all SIMCATs proctored and take home and past year? I am intimidated. Okay, so that's why I said that you may not do everything. Okay, so see, ultimately it depends on how much have you done so far. So let's say if you have done courseware completely, now you have past CAT papers. Let's say you're going to do around 19 past CAT papers, or let's say whatever 20 past CAT papers. So you have 20 past CAT papers, 20 SIMCATs proctored, 20 take home SIMCATs. So what I can do is we are also going to release some of the take home SIMCATs as sectionals. So if you do not have time for the whole paper, you can do them as sectionals. Okay. So at least 40 if we decide proctored plus the past CAT papers. Now 13 SIMCAT proctored have already happened. So you have 7 reset to 37 papers. So that will roughly translate to 1 every alternate day, right? So you can do 1 every alternate day. In some cases, you can increase the frequency at a later point of time with about 5 tests in 7 days. So you can have, let's say, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you are taking tests back to back. Thursday you take a break, and then Friday, Saturday you do a test. So that way it can be done. So it's not necessary that you do every day or every alternate day, but you need to space it out in such a way that you don't get burnt out, right? So you should feel motivated to do something and not, it should not be the case when you get up and say, oh, I have to take a SIMCAT, I don't have the energy to do it, etc. because you have overdone it. So take regular breaks also. I mean, definitely you need to take 1 or 2 days in a week as break from SIMCATs. You do questions, you do section tests, but you don't do full length test on that particular day. Okay, Hitesh, can I focus only on arithmetic and algebra in quant? Will it be enough to score 90 plus? Yes, looking at the past data should be possible, but see, that's why I said out of 5 areas, 3 areas. So I will suggest that you add 1 more area to this whole thing, arithmetic, algebra plus 1 more area. Okay, Kunal, working 8 am to 1 pm as a growth strategist. Now I'm finally starting my elementary maths, linear equations, algebra are weak. So Kunal, what I'll do is for the next couple of days, right? If possible, I will take a break from work, maybe let's say a 7-day break. And in these 7 days, I'll just go all out and at least do arithmetic, right? So that I have taken care of 1 area. So every day I will do 1 topic and do it very, very well. And then I will add algebra to my whole thing, because see, if you do arithmetic, what will happen is you are in a position to do a lot of questions from the SIMCATs as well. So that is why I'm suggesting that approach. But maybe if you can take 1 week break, nothing like that. Suvartha, I'm 85 as per CAT pool now. What should be my target percentile at the end of the month in SIMCAT 14? All the past proctor done gave 4 take homes. Okay, so Suvartha, first of all, good job when it comes to attempting tests so far. I would typically not put percentile aims. What I like doing is putting score aims. So let's say if I'm getting 50, 55 average score right now, let me aim for a 65, 70 by let's say the end of the month or end of the next month, right? So put targets in terms of score, not in terms of percentile. Sid Jain, I'm getting really bad in RC. I am not able to get how to solve because RC is like so much uncertainty. What is the sectional cut of VRC? How many minimum we have to be correct? So Sid, firstly, all of that data is available in public domain as to what score you need to get to a certain percentile. In most of our sessions also we have shared this, whether it is first mile to CAT, last mile to CAT, the videos that you have in your portal. On the B school zone there is a score versus percentile table. So you will be able to find this data. Now see, when you say you are getting really bad in RC, how much reading do you do? Right? So on a daily basis, if you are able to do about 25-30 minutes of reading every day, right, just for your own interest, it will help you. See, there's a common issue with VRC is that, which is what I did also as when I was a student, and that's a very, very common mistake, that you think that there is no approach to do VRC. So when I was a student, I used to think that what is there to study in VRC? It's just reading. So if you get a good passage, you will get good marks. If you get a bad passage, you will not get good marks. That is a mistake, right? So you have to read critically, you have to read for meaning. You have to pause after every paragraph and ask yourself what is happening, right? So there is that 5 pause technique that is there for, that is explained in, for the IMS in the course where you will be able to find it. So there is an approach, right? There's a method to madness. So you have to follow the process and do it repeatedly for, let's say, 15, 20, 30 RCs. Then you will start getting better at it. Because till then you don't have a strategy, the way I did when I was a student, right? It's a silly mistake to do. Okay, I'll start sort of in the reverse order. There's a question from Mamta, how to improve DILR and quants, right? So see, the answer is you solve more questions, right? So there's no other answer apart from that. So the things that I said, right, you start doing at least this much in addition to the SimCATs and the past CAT papers that you are doing. Non-engineering NCOBC profile, 10 months of work X, what should be safe percentile? Okay, so we'll not get up into this, right, because this is a discussion that firstly it's moot at this point of time, right now, and I'll tell you why. Because if I tell you a number, or if somebody else tells you a number, there is an anchoring effect that happens, right? So if I tell you that okay, 75 percentile is enough for you, you start thinking 75, so your targets are around that. So instead of that, you think about this, that for my category, right, whatever be the category, these are the minimum sectionals that I need. That data is available for all the IMs. This is the overall percentile that is required. Now, once I have this knowledge, what is the max that I can do? Let me push for that. So that's why I don't think of minimum percentiles, because see, you first of all don't know how many people are going to take the CAT. That will have an impact. See, imagine instead of 2.93 lakh people, 3.3 lakh people taking the CAT, right? So within every single percentile, you're going to have more people, and that will clearly have an impact on the cutoff. So that is why there are no safe figures, right? So just because in a particular year, somebody at a 93 percentile got into XYZ IM, doesn't mean that in the next year also that will happen. So that is why don't worry about these things. Focus on CAT prep for the next 70 days. Give your best. Whatever happens, we'll see, right? How to solve inference based questions? Okay, so see, we are not going to discuss individual question types, but see, inference is more about your understanding. So everything basically boils down to comprehension. So whether it is an inference question or some other kind of question, have you understood what is happening? So what I try and do, and again you can try it out and see if it works, is after every paragraph that you read, right, just figure out what is the main idea. If you want, you can write down 2-3 key words that help you to remember what you had read in that particular paragraph and keep building on it, right? So if you do that over a period of time, the need to write down keywords will go down and you will be able to remember. But you have to read slow. So there is this thing that you have to read slowly, which is sort of an anti-advice because people think that I should be reading faster. But the moment you read fast, you compromise your accuracy, right? Your comprehension goes for a toss. So you have to read slow, but over a period of time, that reading slow will become reading fast. But today I should not be reading fast. So figure out where exactly that issue is and work on it. Isha, have 5 topics in arithmetics and algebra, have many topics left to cover in courseware. How should I go about it now? Isha, so again, arithmetic, algebra are very, very important. So you should ideally not leave anything from it. So you have enough time, 70 days is decent enough to cover these two areas. I would say depending on the number of topics, you assign one day for each topic. Get the theory, solved examples and class exercise out of your way in these days. So if there are 5 topics remaining of arithmetic, you need 5 days to clear that queue. Okay. What is courseware? Okay, so courseware is basically the IMS study material that we give to our students, the blue books that have been given to you as part of the material. Okay, are the percentiles in take-home SIM cards indicative as proctored SIM cards? Yeah, because see, when we create take-home SIM cards, right, these are nothing but past year actual proctored SIM cards. So we have a lot of data in terms of the p values of the questions, how many people attempted the questions, how many people got it right, and so on. So that is why that data is pretty reliable. A lot of students think that take-home SIM cards are easy. It's not like that. At a point of time, they were proctored SIM cards and people were equally scared of them. The point is that you would have seen similar questions in, let's say, your master classes or in your practice exercises, etc. That's why it appears that they are more familiar. But difficulty wise, they are not like super easy or anything. Okay. The ABC approach for set selection. So when it comes to sets, so again, for IMS students, I would definitely suggest that you watch the first Mile to Cat video if you haven't watched it, and attend LMTC. So we have done the last Mile to Cat event at some of the cities where we discussed it. There are some cities where the event is yet to happen. So if it is happening in a city where you are based, you can obviously attend that and learn from it. But otherwise, basically the set selection in DILR is on type of set, type of conditions and type of questions. So you have to rate the set, that okay, what kind of set it is it something which is familiar, then type of conditions, right? So are they conditions that can be directly put on the paper or are they sort of deductive in nature? And then the type of questions, so are they sort of questions that are open-ended or closed-ended questions, right? So there's a mechanism to rate. You can watch the first Mile to Cat video where you will find it. Okay, but a lot of it eventually happens on sort of familiarity, that you see something and you realize that okay, this is similar to what I had done in the past and this is the approach to solve it. If so, familiarity sort of becomes very important, but you will be able to use that only once you have done the rating for a very long or a very large number of sets, I would say. Okay, what topic should be covered to score 10 to 12 marks in quants, and what is time should RCs should be done? Okay, so to get 10 to 12 marks in quant, only arithmetic can also suffice, but then you have to know arithmetic end to end. So you can't say that, oh, I know percentages, I know profit loss discount, but I don't know ratios or I don't know time speed distance. That approach won't work. So if you have done the entire arithmetic, I think it's fairly possible to get 10 to 12 marks in any of the past CAT papers as well. How much time for RCs? I would say about, see, it depends, right? So what accuracy you have on your RCs versus your accuracy on verbal questions. But around 25 minutes is a good time for RCs and 15 minutes for VA questions. What should be the analysis strategy for quant section? So you're done with the SIMCAT. Let's say you have solved 5 questions. You got, let's say, 3 correct, 2 wrong. You solve the remaining questions now, right? So I'll go through all the remaining questions that I was not able to solve. Then I will look at the questions that I got right and see whether I had a decent solution. And of course, I'll do the questions that I got wrong. I will also look at how much time am I taking, what is the p-value of the questions, and the question selection table, which tells me whether I'm selecting the right set of questions or not. And then I will plan out what I'm going to do next. So I realize that okay, maybe time speed distance I'm getting a lot of questions wrong. So before the next SIMCAT, I'm going to do, let's say, a revision of TSD concepts, or I'm going to do, let's say, a benchmarking test of that, or I'm going to do, let's say, a master class which focuses on time speed distance and so on. So that is what the entire analysis plus planning bit is. How many RCs to solve in 25 minutes? As many as you can, right? So you should not feel relaxed in the paper at any point of time and say that, hey, in the past 2 RCs suffice, I have done 2 RCs, I'm going to sit tight now. So whatever maximum number of questions you can do, you should do it, right? But typically 25 minutes, if you want to get to 1 mark per minute equation roughly, you would need around 25 marks. That will happen through 8 correct questions. To get to 8 correct questions, you will definitely have to attempt 2 RCs or more. Okay, Tarun, SimCAT 345 scores are 49, 56, 57. Is it possible for me to get above 98 percentile? Please reply. Yeah, definitely. I mean, 49, 56, 57 is a decent score. Okay, so if you look at the past data of CAT of several years, you will see that this score, current score that is, and see, you have 70 days ahead of you, you will improve in these 70 days. So definitely you can get to a higher score, right? And I mean, why think of 98? I mean, aim for 99, 99.5, etc. Madhura, actually when I'm solving RCs on normal basis, I get most of them right, but in SimCATs I actually end up getting low scores. Two main reasons. One is SimCAT RCs generally would be slightly higher difficulty than the normal RCs that you solve. If you're not finding that to be the problem, the second problem could be just the time pressure, that there is a timer, so there's more anxiety when it comes to performance. So if that is the case, you have to take more tests. So I would say do more section test, do module test, benchmarking test, right? So more test taking is the solution. Now check if your comprehension is fine. If comprehension is a bigger problem, then you do more reading. So more general reading, more relaxed reading, and reading for fun, and reading so that you can explain to somebody what happened. So for example, let's say I'm reading something from a newspaper today, right? I read the article. After 30 minutes, if somebody asks me, hey, what was there in the article? If I'm not able to describe what the article was about, my comprehension is a big problem. So I need to read for meaning, right? So there is this book by Mortimer Adler called How to Read a Book. So of course, I don't want anybody to check it out right now because it's not going to help. But he basically talks about how do you read a book so that you derive maximum out of it. And it's a very old book, it's a very big book as well. If you can find a summary of it somewhere, or you can just ask maybe ChatGPT to summarize it for you. It's a book called How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler. But essentially it talks about making notes while you're reading. And that's the core principle to draw, that if you make notes while reading, it helps you to retain it better. I attempted SimCAT 1 today, scored 10, 14, 27, 51 overall. VRC score is stuck in 10, 15. What to do? Okay, so firstly, 51 is decent, right? So if you've got a score of 51, I would say that's a pretty good sign. 10 right now is okay. I don't know how many tests you have taken in the past, because you said SimCAT 1, right? So if you have not taken too many tests so far, it's obvious that your VRC score is going to be low because you don't know how to approach it. In that case, give yourself some more time, do more RCs. Instead of doing 2 RCs a day, you should be doing something like 3-4 RCs a day to compensate for not having done enough RCs so far. Mehul, score is varying between 40 to 55 percentile. Can I score 99? See, what you have to remember is, firstly, I'll not focus too much on percentile right now. So in my SimCATs, right, the percentile that I get, I will not take that to be like the absolute reality of life and say, okay, I am a 55 percentile candidate, right? That's not how it is. Because when you look at your SimCAT percentile of 55, you would notice that your predicted CAT percentile would be, I don't know, maybe around 80 or something. That happens because of that entire deadweight bit that I discussed, right? So it's possible to get to, let's say you don't do anything from here till CAT day, right? With your 40-55 percentile right now, I think you should still be able to get to maybe an 80-85. But in the remaining days, you will do something, right? So your task is now figuring out what is it that I'm going to do, and do that, and then whatever happens, happens, right? So you can get to a 99, but how much effort will you have to put to get there, and whether you have enough time for that or not, that we don't know. As in, we have 70 days, that's what we know. But out of these 70 days, how much usable time we have? So I don't know if you're a working professional, what other priorities you have. So if I give everything that I can, and I prepare at the level that, let's say, a 99 percentile would prepare, I can get to a higher score. How high? I don't know. Okay. Okay, we still have a lot of questions to answer. I don't know, think I'll be able to answer everything, but anyway, you will see me in some other session as well. So we have more opportunities to connect. Can we get courseware if we are not IMS classroom students? So if you're an online student, obviously you have the same courseware that is sent to you. We have self-learning programs as well, so you can check it out. What type of DILR set should be done, like logical DILR sets, which are the major types we practice? You don't be selective there. Music addict, you do everything. So you do a variety of stuff, and ultimately that helps you. Anuj, if you're an IMS student, you can connect with the center wherever you have enrolled, and they'll be able to put you in touch with me. 95 percentile possible, it's what Joban is asking. If I daily study 16 hours. Firstly, daily 16 hours, I don't think you should be studying, because it may be counterproductive, right? So you need to optimize that. 16 hours is not even required for CAT. I would say something like 8 hours is upper limit, as I mentioned, but do something else with those remaining 8 hours, right, which will help you. It could be, let's say, learning some new skill or doing some course or certification and stuff like that. Because otherwise, sometimes we are just doing things, right? We are not figuring out why we are doing it. So I was explaining that if I given a choice between doing, let's say, 5,000 questions where I'm not critically thinking about it, versus 4,000 questions or 3,000 questions where I'm deeply thinking about what the problem is and what the solution is, I will always choose the second one, because it's more optimized approach towards preparation rather than just doing things for the sake of doing. So if you've seen, right, cricketers, for example, right? So when you see them in practice, they are not doing only cricket, correct? So there will be different drills that they do. So on some days they will do running, on some days they will play a different sport, right? You must have seen a lot of cricketer videos where they are actually playing football, correct? Because it improves your agility. They will play badminton and stuff like that. They will do exercises which improves their reflexes. So why they are doing that? They could just be hitting balls, right, or bowling balls. They don't do that because firstly, it creates monotony. The second thing is, there are a lot of these peripheral things that help you in prep, so you have to do it. So create something which is different for yourself. So today, let's say just for the sake of example, right, let's say you do a class exercise in, say, 2 hours, right? Now what you can do is, you can try out that, okay, today I'm going to do something slightly different. I am going to figure out which are the 15 easiest questions from this and do them in, say, 35 minutes. Okay. So this is a task that you have. It's a slight variation from the things that you have been doing so far, but just try it out. Or you say, okay, today I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to do 5 sectionals of VRC. Okay. Now it may happen that by the time you reach the 5th sectional, you are tired, but now you know that you can actually do 5 sectionals in a day, because till now you hadn't even thought of that possibility. So do different things. That also helps you to sort of break the monotony and sort of fall in love with learning in some sense. Harshvardhan, yes, it's possible to get that, but then you will have to check out online, right? So through what means you will be able to get that. Mehul, DLR sets are taking so much time. What to do? How to segregate the time? So I have mentioned, that's why you have to keep a timer. So you can't just sit on it for a long time and say, this is it, right? If, let's say, so just to give an example, let's say I get a difficult set. I'm practicing it offline. I see a difficult set. The maximum time that I will spend on it to crack it is going to be 10 minutes. Then I will go to the solution. If I'm not able to crack it, I'll go to the solution and take a hint from it. Then I will spend another 5 to 7 minutes to solve the set, or maybe 10 minutes. If even after that I'm not able to solve it, just go through the more than 20 minutes, right? So that's why keep a timer. So 20 minutes, 3 sets, 60 minutes. That's the upper limit that I set. Okay, should we attend ADMAT classes now if you are aiming CAT and then other exams later? Nancy, so ADMAT master classes, right? The recording is already available in MyMS. You can consume it whenever you want. You need not watch the or attend the classes live. If your focus is CAT, I would say plan out when you're going to take these other exams, and basis that you can decide. So if, let's say, I'm going to take NMAT in November, In that case, I should be watching ADMAT masterclasses in October. I have to do that. I have to take ADMAT mocks in October. But if I'm going to take NMAT SNAP in December, SNAP obviously is in December only, but NMAT also in December, I can decide not to watch ADMAT masterclasses at this point of time. The moment CAT gets done, I'll focus on it. Even then, I would suggest taking 1 or 2 mocks of NMAT, let's say in October, and maybe 1 in December, just to again break the monotony. How can I manage stress and overthinking this time as CAT is not far away? That's a good question, Yashita. I think, and again, I was talking to a student at Mumbai LMTC, and I was telling the person that even right now, after so many years of test taking, right, when I have a test coming up, I am going to get little bit anxious about what is going to happen. If it is a familiar center where I've taken a test in the past, I'm generally in a better zone. But if it is like some random center, I don't know how the test is going to be, generally there's slight bit of anxiety. So you can't run away from it completely, but you subject yourself to that experience multiple times, and that's the whole point of taking SimCATs. That from now on, if I take every SimCAT as if it's the CAT, which means I create settings that are similar. So for example, don't take it on your laptop, right? Even if you're taking it on your laptop, don't use the trackpad that you have, right? Use an external mouse, because on the CAT day you're going to have an external mouse. Sit with almost the same amount of rough sheet that you're going to get on the CAT day, which is that booklet that is there. Sit in front of your machine for 40 minutes and do nothing, and then begin the SimCAT. So all of these small things that you do, they also create a difference. A lot of students, what they do is SimCAT, I'm going to take SimCAT at 10 o'clock. They will log in at 10 o'clock and they'll start the test. But that is not the approach. You sit in front of your machine at 9:15 or 9:30, do nothing for 15-30 minutes and get used to that silence, and then you begin the test. And that is the 2.5 hour to 3 hour stamina that you need to develop. Okay. So that is the getting used to the entire experience part of it. Overthinking is keep yourself busy. So generally when you keep yourself busy, you tend to kick the negative thoughts away. Then you don't overthink, right? So if you idle mind generally will have lot of thoughts, but if you keep yourself busy, so that's why people who are especially focusing only on CAT and they're not working, etc. That's why I said do some course, certifications, learning, do exercise, things like these, right? Because the more occupied you are, the lesser negative thoughts you will get. Teachers and mentors who give mocks, they also fluctuate the cutoff sometime. Okay, so firstly, couple of things. One is during SimCATs, at least most of the IMS mentors, we don't take it because we have a separate test that we can take. There's a mentor test that is created, so it will not have any impact on the SimCAT percentile. And when it comes to CAT, right, see, we are not applying to any of the IMs, right? So it's not going to make any difference in that sense. So don't worry about that. See, you will always find somebody who is better. If not a teacher, it's going to be some other student who is better. So that's not the whole point. You should not be worrying about it too much, because the number of people, number of mentors who will actually mark is also very, very less. So there are a lot of mentors who take it, but they don't mark anything. So don't worry about it. Making very silly calculation errors in quants while attempting mocks, doing it often and eventually getting 3-4 questions wrong. Okay, take random numbers and try to do something with it. Right? So for example, 13 into 7. Just give yourself a problem, try to solve it. Right? 49 into 97. Now how do I do 49 into 97? So 49 into 100 minus 49 into 3. But how do I do 49 into 3? Right? So I can do a 50 into 3, then a minus 3. Right? If I want to do it that way. So keep repeating this sort of exercise where you're just taking some random numbers, writing it down on a paper, and then trying to solve it. Okay. All right. Maybe a few last questions. Tejas, missed your presence in LMTC Pune. Thanks, Tejas, for saying that. My question is, should we have to read just essays, or solving passages would be a better idea to get better at VRC if you're not good at comprehending? No, you have to do both. So see, this is must. So don't prioritize reading over solving RCs, because ultimately that's what you're going to do. But that doesn't mean that you just keep on doing this, right? So general reading is important because it firstly helps you to get better at a lot of things at one point of time. So speed, comprehension, and vocab. Here what is happening is you're just focused, right? So this is the core activity, but this is the additional thing that you will have to do. So while you're doing this, you're not focused on improving my vocab. So you're not solving an RC to improve your vocab. You're solving it because you want to test whether you can solve it. But when you do this, your focus is, okay, improving your comprehension, your speed, your vocabulary, etc. So that's why this is additional and complementary to what you're doing here. Anusha, I've given 13 SIM cards till now. Highest score is 45. What are my chances? Your chances are as good as somebody else's chances. Okay, so Anusha, see, 45 is decent. So anybody, I would say, who is getting a score which is, again, of course, depends on your preparation that you've done so far, but somewhere in the range of 40-50, right? It's very easy for you to improve because there's a lot of room to improve. So somebody who is at, let's say, 100, right, has a very limited improvement room because they have done enough. So they have maybe a few marks that they can increase. But somebody who's sitting at 45, there's so much scope to improve. You just have to identify where I need to improve and work on it. I'm scoring around 70-18 mocks. What strategy should I focus to cross 90 regularly in mocks? Okay, so don't worry about percentile because it's a function of relative performance. I'll just focus on my marks and see how I can increase that bit. Okay, how to plan? I'm getting consistent scores of around 38. Please advise how bad it is. It's not bad. I've done exercises, benchmarking and giving mocks now. Okay, so Nancy, definitely add past CAT papers. That should help you. Ansh, hard stuck in range of 50-65 overall. How do I stretch my marks in VRC beyond 30 and 25 in QA? How to score 90? Firstly, with 50-65, you are on your way to get there. But again, you want to see it earlier. So I would say in quant especially, what you need to identify is what are the areas where you currently are not getting questions. I mean, whether you're not able to solve it or you're getting the questions wrong. And then spend a couple of days doing just that. So let's say I realize that my time and work is problem. So take this entire weekend and solve, let's say, 50, 60, 70 problems of time and work and just finish it off once and for all. So that approach is far better than sort of keeping it that, okay, I'll do 10 questions a day for next, I don't know, let's say 7-8 days. No, take it, close the chapter. Okay, so that approach will be far better in helping you than sort of having an extended preparation period. Compared to CAT, how difficult is SimCAT? Pretty similar, right? So you would see SimCAT toppers sometimes going in the range of 150, 160, etc. In the actual CAT also, this has happened in the past, right? So there have been CATs where the toppers have gone to like 170, 180, etc. So pretty similar. Okay, so in the interest of everybody's time, your time as well as my time, we are going to stop this session. But if you have any questions, you want to ask anything about CAT, about ADMATs, about prep strategy, whatever it is, leave it as a comment and I will reply to your questions. I generally try and reply. There have been cases where I have not been able to do that, but as much as possible I try and reply. If you must have seen the recent video on SPJMR form filling, I replied to every single question that I got, right? So I will try and reply as soon as I can. So you can leave it as a comment and I will get back to you, okay? But thank you so much all of you for joining and staying back till the end. It was a fairly long session. So thanks for joining. I'll see you soon in some or the other videos. I'm also planning to do some live sessions with respect to the test strategy, etc. as we progress. So you will see me there, okay? So thanks and all the best to all of you. Don't give up, right? So the things that we discussed, I want you to focus on the last 2 points, believing in yourself and giving it everything that you have over the next 70 days so that you're able to create the outcome that you're visualizing, okay? So thanks for joining. Wish all of you all the best. Bye and take care.